So just going to run you through assessment task 5. Okay, it's a series of questions that I'll just explain a bit further. In the following, question 1, in the following question, provide A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, we want you to provide in A in 600 words. So break up each letter and block it out as to 100 words here, 100 words there. If you wanted, that's what I want to do. It's 100 words per letter. So you're just thinking about explaining succinctly in 100 words, essentially, an overview of the Australian healthcare system and its structure. Okay, you can go a little bit over, but you should be able to, for all of these letters, make 600 words easily. So B, social issues affecting healthcare. So you might talk about the various things in society that, for an example of that would be smoking, and the health effects that smoking has. C, we want you to discuss political issues affecting healthcare. So we want you to perhaps look at the 2 major parties, or if you want to look at a minor party, that would be okay, and what their positions are around healthcare. And that might also lead into D, the economic issues, so the health dollar and how the health gets funded through politics and through the major parties and the government. But economics could also be around, for example, plain packaging smoking, cigarettes, and how effective that is in reducing the amount of people that smoke and therefore the amount of people that come into the healthcare system. So given that I've used smoking as an example, that is not an example we want you to use in answering this question. So E, so we want to know the strengths, what you think, this is what your opinion is from reviewing all of these aspects beforehand. What are the strengths of the healthcare system and what do you think the weaknesses of the Australian healthcare system are? Number 2, research what a service model is and what a standard of care is in nursing and healthcare, because there's lots of models in lots of different occupations, but we want you to research, you're doing a nursing diploma, so we want you to research a nursing model. And then we want you to explain what you've found and what you've chosen. And then explain a standard of care. So find a standard of care that's used within our profession. And then we want you to explain it so that we know that you understand it. Number 3, describe some non-Western approaches to health. So what are all of the things, so people don't always present to hospital to fix their ailments. So what are some of the other non-Western approaches to healing your body, essentially? 4, what is the primary healthcare framework? And provide an example of the framework in action. So we want you to explain what it is, what is primary healthcare, and what's an example of primary healthcare, how primary healthcare works. That should only be a couple of sentences as well. Describe who is in the multidisciplinary team. So who are the people that make up a multidisciplinary team and what does the team do together? Again, 2 or 3 sentences. Number 6, describe the evolution of nursing. So how nursing, we want you to talk about what nursing has been like back in Florence Nightingale's day, for example, and how the profession has evolved to today. We also want you to tell us what's the same about now and about when Florence Nightingale practiced and what is different. Okay, you should easily make 200 words with that. Again, you're only able to be 10% below. So with a word count, you must be, if you wanted to be at the very minimum, it must be 135 words. So 15 words less than 150. So very minimum, it must be 135. But describing those, doing those 3 things, the evolution of nursing, so from Florence Nightingale days to now, and then what's the same and what's different, you should easily make 200 words. Okay, describe the roles of the Nursing Midwifery Board of Australia and the Australian Nursing Midwifery Federation. That should be fairly easy. We just want you to tell us what they do and what their role, what the function of them is. Number 8, how is the public health system funded? How do we fund our free public health system? And how is the private system funded? Okay, that's just a couple of sentences for each. Where does the money come from? Okay, to make these two systems work. Number 9, how would you explain to a client their possible health choices? So if they were going in for hip surgery, how would they, what would their experience be as a public patient? And then what would their experience be as a private patient? If you were having to explain to a patient those two different journeys for them. Number 10, okay, now that you have more of an understanding of the structure of the healthcare system and how members of society interact with it, we want you to describe how health and illness might affect different groups in society. Okay, so how does health and illness, or probably more illness, how does it affect people from a low socioeconomic background, and how does it affect them from, how does health and illness affect somebody who comes from a different cultural background? Okay, so if they are a refugee, an asylum seeker, non-English speaking background, how is their experience different in the healthcare system? And then B, I want you to have a little look at various health policies of the major parties and or the minor parties, okay, at a state and federal level, okay. They're funded very differently, okay, and identify what their policies are, okay, and how those policies might affect the people that you just described and their experiences in A, okay? And or we want to identify advocacy or lobby groups who are pressuring the government to change health policy to assist these people in A. So you might go in and find that there's an absence of direction around how we can address their health problems. And you might see that there is actually other people working, advocacy groups or lobby groups, lobbying the government for funding to help these people out. We want you to describe what that looks like, okay? And you should easily do that in 400 words. Number 11, provide the basis of the nursing theory. So we want you to include where you're finding your references from. So what is Florence Nightingale's nursing theory? Just explain that in a few sentences. Dorothea Oram, what's her theory around nursing? Martha Rogers, Betty Newman, Hildegard Plough, and Madeleine Leninger. So we just want you to find what their theory is on nursing in a couple of sentences, and then tell us where your referencing is from. How they have contributed to nursing theory. And part 2 of that, question 12, that says 2 there, but question 12 is pick one of these theories. So you might like to pick Dorothea Oram, for example. You don't have to, you could pick one of the others. And then if you were looking after an elderly patient with dementia, how might you incorporate Dorothea Oram's theory of nursing into looking after them, essentially? How might you incorporate the theoretical framework into your care of an elderly patient with dementia in the primary healthcare environment? Okay, so we've already described back up here what primary healthcare is. Primary healthcare. How might you match one of these theories with a patient with dementia in the primary healthcare environment? Okay, and that's it.